They made me promise, every single one of them. No names, no properties, nothing that could be traced back. I'm sitting across from a man who spent 23 years on casino floors, who started as a dealer at 21 and worked his way up to floor manager, who shook hands with high rollers and watched fortunes change in a single night. His hands are shaking now, not from age, from fear. He looks over his shoulder before he speaks, checks the door, lowers his voice even though we're alone, even though we're in a coffee shop 30 miles from the strip. He's terrified, not of embarrassment, not of looking disloyal, of retaliation, of being blacklisted from the only industry he's ever known, of phone calls to future employers, whispered warnings, doors closing before they ever open. That's what it costs to talk. That's what these people are risking, and they're talking anyway. Over the past 3 months, I've had conversations like this one 14 times. 14 former casino employees, 14 people who built careers on the strip, 14 voices that the industry desperately wants to keep silent. Dealers who spent decades reading faces across felt tables, floor managers who watched thousands of shifts unfold, housekeepers who entered more hotel rooms than they can count, security guards who saw what happens when the cameras aren't watching, finance people who stared at the real numbers, the ones that never make it into press releases. They worked at different properties, different companies, different decades of experience. Some left last month, some left years ago. They don't know each other, have never met, but they all reached out for the same reason. They couldn't stay silent anymore. And here's what I need you to understand. These aren't disgruntled employees looking for revenge. These aren't people who got fired and want to burn it all down. Every single person I spoke to loved their job, loved the industry, believed in the magic of what Vegas was supposed to be. One woman told me she used to feel proud putting on her uniform, like she was part of something bigger, part of a machine that made dreams come true for people who needed an escape. She cried when she told me that, because she doesn't feel that way anymore. Because something broke, something changed, and they watched it happen from the inside. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know I don't do rumor. I don't do speculation. I do documented facts, named sources where possible, exposed evidence, but this story is different. This story only exists because people were willing to risk everything to tell it, and I made them a promise. Protect their identities. Let their words speak. Trust that what they're describing matters more than whether I can prove which building it happened in. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you're not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Because what these 14 people told me isn't just about Vegas. It's about what happens when an industry starts to die and decides to hide the body. It's about the lies being told to customers, to workers, to anyone who still believes the fantasy is real. Hit subscribe, because this story is going to stay with you. Let me tell you about the floor manager. 23 years. Started dealing blackjack when most people his age were still figuring out what to do with their lives. He loved the energy of it, the theater, the way a casino floor at midnight feels like the center of the universe. He worked his way up, earned every promotion, became the guy they called when something went wrong, when a whale was unhappy, when a situation needed smoothing. He was good at his job, really good, and 6 months ago, he walked away. Not retired, not laid off, walked away. I asked him why. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about. He said, "The Vegas you see on TV doesn't exist anymore. What's actually happening inside these buildings if people knew they'd never set foot on the strip again?" I let that sit, then I asked him to explain, and for the next 2 hours, he did. He told me about meetings where managers were instructed to create the illusion of activity on floors that were dying, about financial reports that got revised 3 times before anyone outside the building saw them, about directives coming down from corporate that made his stomach turn. He told me about watching colleagues get pushed out, veteran workers with decades of experience shown the door and replaced with new hires at half the salary. He told me about the fear, the way it spread through the building like a virus. Everyone afraid to speak up, afraid to ask questions, afraid that today might be the day their number comes up. He said, "I used to know everyone on my floor, their families, their stories. We were a team. By the end, I didn't recognize anyone. The good people were gone, and the ones who stayed were just trying to survive. Just trying to survive." That phrase kept coming up. In conversation after conversation, 14 different people. Same words. These workers signed things when they left. NDAs, non-disparagement agreements, severance packages that came with strings attached. Talk, and you lose the payout. Talk, and you face legal action. Talk, and you never work in this town again. Those aren't empty threats. Vegas is a small world. Everyone knows everyone. Word travels. Careers end. These people know that, and they're talking anyway. I asked every single one of them the same question. Why now? Why risk it? A housekeeper with 20 years of service told me, because what I saw in that building wasn't right, and staying quiet started to feel like I was part of it, like my silence was helping them get away with it. A dealer told me, I keep thinking about the guests, the families, the people who save all year for a Vegas trip and have no idea what they're walking into. Someone should tell them. A security supervisor said, I signed their papers, I took their money, but I didn't sign away my conscience. And some things you can't stay quiet about. Some things you can't stay quiet about. That's why we're here. That's why this video exists. 14 people. 14 separate conversations. Different properties. Different departments. Different decades of experience. And they all describe the same thing. A systematic effort. Coordinated. Deliberate. To hide just how bad things have gotten. Not from investors, not from regulators, from you, the customer they desperately still need. The tourists they're still trying to lure through the doors. The person whose money is the only thing standing between the strip and collapse. They're hiding it from you, and the methods they're using, the deceptions, the theater, the elaborate performance of normalcy happening every single night on casino floors across Las Vegas. That's where this story turns dark. Because what these workers described isn't just cost cutting, isn't just a business going through hard times. It's a machine designed to make you believe everything is fine, while the people inside that machine know the truth. And the truth is something they're terrified for you to find out. Let me tell you how to fake a full casino. It's an art form, one that Vegas has perfected. Multiple sources describe the same practice, workers being positioned throughout the floor not to serve customers, to be seen, to make empty look busy. Employees told to stand near tables, walk circuits, hover around slot machines, create the illusion of activity where none exists. One former pit boss told me they'd keep tables open with a single player. One guy playing blackjack at a table that needs 5 to break even. Closing it looked worse than losing money on it, so we bled every night just to avoid the visual of a dead floor. A slot technician revealed something that made my skin crawl. Some machines have been recalibrated, not the odds, the sounds. More frequent wind noises, celebratory chimes triggered by payouts so small they're actually losses. The goal isn't to pay out more. The goal is to make a silent floor sound alive. Make losing feel like winning. A former marketing coordinator gave me the term they use internally. Visual occupancy, not real occupancy. Visual. The number of bodies that appear to be spending money versus the number actually spending. She said, our entire job became making empty look full, making dying look alive. We got really good at it, but that's just what they hide from customers. What they hide from workers is worse. Multiple sources described an information blackout. Numbers that used to be posted openly, daily figures, weekly reports, the metrics that let employees understand how the business was doing. Gone, classified. One dealer told me they stopped showing us anything. That's when I knew. When they don't want you to see the numbers, it's because the numbers would make you run. Management isn't just afraid of customers finding out. They're afraid of their own people understanding the full picture. Because employees who understand the full picture start updating their resumes, start whispering, start becoming liabilities. One source put it perfectly. She said, they're not managing a business anymore. They're managing a secret. And the secret is that the business is already dead. They just haven't told anyone yet. Already dead. They just haven't told anyone. But the deception doesn't stop at appearances. What these workers revealed about how they're being treated. The systematic betrayal of people who gave decades to these companies. That's when I realized this story was bigger than Vegas. Let me tell you how they break people. It starts with the schedule. Multiple workers describe the same game. Hours posted at the last possible minute. Shifts appearing and disappearing without warning. Full-time positions quietly reclassified to part-time. Why part-time? Because part-time means no benefits. A former HR employee explained the strategy. Keep them at 29 hours, 1 hour under the threshold. No healthcare, no retirement, nothing. And if they complain, there's 50 people waiting for their job. 29 hours. 1 hour from security. 1 hour from dignity. 3 sources described something that made me sick. New tip pooling arrangements. Money that used to go straight to workers now getting siphoned upward. Percentages routed to supervisors, to house accounts, to anywhere except the pockets of the people who earned it. Legal, barely. Moral, not even close. But the story that broke me was simpler. A dealer, 18 years at the same property, never missed a shift, employee of the year twice, the kind of worker every company says they value. She got called into the office on a Tuesday. Position eliminated. They offered her a part-time role, 40% of her previous income, no benefits, take it or leave it. She left. 2 weeks later, they posted a job listing. Her job, same position, same responsibilities. Entry-level pay. They didn't eliminate her role. They eliminated her salary. 18 years of loyalty erased in 15 minutes. And she's not the exception. She's the pattern. Veteran workers being systematically pushed out. Institutional knowledge walking out the door, replaced with new hires who don't know better and can't afford to complain. One manager told me, they're not cutting costs, they're cutting people. There's a difference. Costs don't have families, costs don't have mortgages. Costs don't cry in the break room. But that's just the how. The why, the breaking point, the moment these workers decided they had to leave. That's when I understood we're watching something more than an industry cutting corners. We're watching an industry consume itself. Everyone has a line, a moment when uncomfortable becomes unforgivable. Every person I talked to could name theirs. The security guard, 12 years, loved his job, left when they told him to start monitoring workers' personal phones during breaks, scanning for social media posts, screenshots of complaints, evidence of disloyalty. They wanted me to spy on my own people I'd worked beside for a decade. I couldn't. The housekeeper, 22 years, left when room quotas jumped from 14 to 22 per shift. No pay increase, no extra time. They wanted us to cut corners, not change sheets between guests if they looked clean. I wouldn't do that to people. I couldn't sleep knowing what I'd left behind in those rooms. The dealer, 15 years, quit when she was trained to push customers toward higher minimum tables they couldn't afford. Keep them playing, keep them losing. I watched a guy lose his rent money because of what I did, what I was told to do. I still see his face. The floor manager, 20 years, walked out when they handed him a list of names. Long-term employees. His friends? Write them up, they said. Minor infractions. Build paper trails. Create justification for termination. They wanted me to help fire people I'd known for decades. I said no. They said fine, we'll fire you instead. Here's what haunts me. These are the ones who left. The ones with enough savings, enough options, enough courage. The ones still inside? They're doing the things these people refuse to do. Right now. Tonight. Because they can't afford to say no. One manager said something I can't shake. The best people already left. What's left are the desperate and the broken. That's who's serving your drinks now. That's who's dealing your cards. And that's exactly how management wants it. Desperate people don't complain. Broken people don't organize. And that's by design. But what these workers told me about the future, what they see coming from the inside, that should concern everyone. I asked every source the same question. What's coming? The answers were identical. This isn't a downturn. This is a collapse in slow motion. They've seen the internal projections, heard the private conversations, watched executives update their resumes while telling workers everything is fine. Multiple sources pointed to the same window, 12 to 18 months. Major properties closing, not restructuring, not rebranding, closing. One finance worker said, when the first big one goes, it'll be fast. They're all connected, same vendors, same credit lines, same house of cards. One falls, they all fall. 300,000 jobs. Dependent on an industry that insiders say is already dead, just hasn't stopped moving yet. And the guest experience? When the only workers left are the ones too desperate to quit, service collapses, quality disappears, and then customers stop coming entirely. That's the final spiral. We're already in it. I asked every single source one last question. If you could tell customers one thing before they book a trip to Vegas, what would it be? Their answers were almost identical, word for word. It wasn't about prices, wasn't about service. It was a warning. They said, "The Vegas you remember is already gone. What's there now is a shell, a performance. And the people putting on that performance are suffering in ways you can't see from the casino floor." 14 workers, 14 warnings. One message: the lights are still on. The machines still sing. The fountains still dance. But the people who made the magic, they're already gone. And what's left behind, you don't want to see it up close.